Peace and greetings. Welcome back to another moment in time with me, Deja Serenidad, and my unborn child.
I hope you find serenity. I hope you find serenity.
And I felt a little kick even when I did that. So for those of you who are new here, you're probably wondering what's going on with my background. This is my off-grid cabin in Costa Rica. I'm currently transitioning out of this cabin. I'm living in a place I'm renting about 20 minutes away, and I'm slowly taking down the cabin to build a more suitable house for a woman with a child. So that's what's going on, but I still come to my farm every day because I have 2 dogs. So they're here with me. Today, while I'm here having my farm time, I wanted to share with y'all a bit about my experience so far trying to have a holistic and natural pregnancy in Costa Rica. So it's interesting because as I've shared with some women online who I'm connected with a little bit about what I've experienced so far, they're actually really surprised because there is this belief or this idea, which I think I held it too, that Costa Rica is like somehow more free than the United States or somehow different. But the truth is we're still in the Western world, and in a lot of ways, Americans, like US citizens, have way more privilege when it comes to choosing and having certain rights than what I'm witnessing now here in Costa Rica. I found out that I was pregnant in April, and it's now September, so I'm now 6 months pregnant. And before pregnancy, I was already, obviously I've been living like off-grid in the jungle in Costa Rica. I'm a bit of a hippie. I'm a bit of a nature girl. And as much as I can, I try to live a lifestyle that is more so aligned with nature. I've been really finding deeper connection with more ancestral practices. I'm not completely disconnected from the modern world. Obviously, I'm talking to you from my iPhone. So I would say I'm still very much involved in a lot of modern things. But there's aspects of my life that I like to maintain quite natural. So even long before this pregnancy, I already knew, okay, when I get pregnant, if I get pregnant, like I would like to have a home birth. It seems like a better environment to do birth. I want to already be in my nest where I'm going to rest. I don't want to be under hospital lights or being looked at by doctors and all these things. I don't like going to the doctor. I really don't go to the doctor too much. Like I used to go growing up, because my mom took me and it was just like a requirement, you know? So I didn't question it growing up. It wasn't until I started to come into this consciousness of realizing that that medicine is not always medicine. A lot of times it's actually just drugs, and the real medicine most of the time is in plants. So as I've been learning about plant medicine in the last, I'd say maybe 6 or 7 years, and understanding that so many things that are given to us by doctors, it's more so about, pharmaceutical companies making money than actually healing people. They're not really in the business of healing people. And me now being a healer and being in the field of holistic healing, I just really was like, oh, none of that stuff is real. So it's something I completely let go and haven't really revisited the subject. Haven't been sick in a long time. Haven't really had any issues in a really long time. So I've just been good, and if I ever was to feel something, like I actually did in the beginning of my pregnancy get a sore throat one day, which I haven't had in years. But I had an oregano tincture that I made myself with oregano I grew here on the farm. And my sore throat was better within like 12 hours. So I've seen firsthand that plant medicine can absolutely work. So when I thought about birth, even before I became pregnant, for years I've been following different birth workers online. I actually for many years had a fear of childbirth when I first found out where children came from, and even the way that it's projected to us in media and movies and stuff. It's always like the woman is in so much pain. I was like, I'm not gonna do that. That seems horrifying. And I thought it was something I could just never recover from. So for many, many years, I was afraid of childbirth. And I thought maybe I won't ever do that. I still like the idea of being a mother, but I was like, but the birth, what you have to do to become a mother just seems like a lot. When I was really small, I even used to say, I'll just adopt. I don't have to do that. So in these last years, as I've been going through my various awakenings, I started to follow a lot of birth workers and watch birth videos to try to help myself to relieve that fear, and also just to be a witness to birth and what it is. So I was already kind of in that realm, for years now. And the birth videos I'm watching are home births mostly. Births that perhaps have a birth worker like a midwife or doula or both. Some unassisted births where women are just doing it by themselves or just with their partner. But yeah, so it's already been in my auric field long before my pregnancy. So when I became pregnant, I was immediately like, okay, well, I'm going to have a home birth. And my highest preference is to do a wild pregnancy, which I've actually only recently learned the term, maybe a year or two ago. My dogs will not stop licking my legs. That's enough. That's enough kisses. They just got to be involved. You just had to be involved. Now get your hands off my belly. You got to stop rough-handing me. He still thinks he's the baby, so he's in for a rude awakening. Because there's a real baby on the way. Not that you're not a real baby, but there's a human baby on the way. You can't be the baby anymore, okay? So I've watched different women's videos online, like on YouTube, where they share their birth stories, and some people who plan a home birth but end up having to go to a hospital, people who give birth alone at home, all sorts of stories. And I just felt really inspired by these women. And I was like, that's definitely what I want. I could see clearly that's what I want. And at some point in watching some of these videos a few years ago, I came across a video that talks about wild pregnancy, which basically means a pregnancy where you do not go to the doctor at all, no prenatal care, and then you just give birth and then you have a baby. And that resonated with me even more, because I'm like, what even is the point of going to the doctor, when you're pregnant, right? Like, there's all this checking in and stuff, and unless you're really having like a high risk pregnancy, for the most part, it's such a naturally occurring thing and such a sacred thing that for me, it's better to approach it like a ceremony and a sacred initiation rather than this highly medical and medicated event. So when I learned about that, I was like, yeah, I want to do a wild pregnancy. I don't want to do all that stuff. So I already had that thought out. When I became pregnant, I was very excited. And I knew right away, okay, I want to do a home birth and I want to do a wild pregnancy. Like, I just already believed in myself. And I've been doing deep work for years now. I'm 29 as well. I'm like in the end of my Saturn return / kind of leaving my Saturn return. My Saturn's in Pisces, so Saturn did move, but I believe it's retrograde back in Pisces right now. So all of these things, the timing, the alignment, the knowledge that has come to me leading up to this point led me to believe deeply I can have a baby. I am capable of bringing life to this world in a very sacred and spiritual way. And physically I can handle it. Emotionally I can handle it. And all I really need are, to take my herbs and teas and eat my greens and veggies and drink water and stay as stress-free as possible. And I'll be able to have this baby. But then upon starting to look into, okay, well, I'm in Costa Rica. I'm not a resident, but if you have a baby here, your baby can become a Costa Rican citizen and you can get a birth certificate. And the rains are coming, so you're going to hear the rain, but that's all right. So I started to look into like what was needed, and I found that in order to receive a birth certificate here, you will need to have proof of prenatal care. And I was like, dang, I really didn't want to go to the doctor, but I'll get the baby a birth certificate because I think I need the birth certificate in order to get a U.S. passport as well. And also, if my baby becomes a Costa Rican citizen, that will allow me also to apply for residency, so I don't have to leave every 6 months. So all these things, I'm like, okay, I'll go to the doctor. So I went to the doctor. I was 17 weeks pregnant, meaning I was already 4 months pregnant. Now, I got pregnant while I was in Kenya. So I was pregnant for about a month in Kenya. And then about 3 weeks I spent in the States before coming back to Costa Rica. So the first 2 months of my pregnancy, I was really not around. And then I spent 2 more months in Costa Rica before actually going to the doctor because I didn't need to. I did experience, feeling sick during my first trimester, but not throwing up. Just feeling really fatigued, really tired, not feeling like myself. Honestly, it was the most sick I felt during the pregnancy. Since then, I feel a lot better. But because I was seeing it as I can do a wild pregnancy, I had no intention of going to the doctor. I found out that to go to the doctor in Costa Rica is completely free for pregnant women. You just go, tell them that you're pregnant, they'll give you an appointment, and even the prenatal vitamins and all that is completely free, and you do not need to be a resident or a citizen to have this benefit. That's just how it works here. So I'm thinking, oh, that's so nice. You know, I have a few other friends who are pregnant right now who were telling me this. I was like, oh, that's nice. Since it's free and it's right there up the street, I can just go to the clinic and like have them see me. I'll just do that so I can have some documentation that I received prenatal care. So I go in there, right? And immediately what I don't like is they call it control del embarazo. So when you're going for your checkups, they literally call it pregnancy control. Like I went in there and I was kind of explaining in Spanish, like, oh, I'm pregnant. My friend told me I could come here to like get a checkup, basically. I was saying so they can see me or they can revisar me, like they can check on me. And she was like, oh, for a control, un control. And I was like, is that what y'all call it? I guess that's what it is. So already the language had me side-eyeing him. But I went in and basically just did my blood pressure and weighed me. And then the doctor took a bunch of information. The OB was a man, and I didn't like that. I know a lot of OBs are actually men, but I don't know. I don't like it. Birth is just not for y'all. Like, I need a womb person with me. So I already didn't like that. And as he was taking all my information, he was like, asked me when my last period was. My last period had been in March. So he's like, and he calculated, he's like, you're 17 weeks pregnant. He's like, why would you wait so long to go to the doctor? Did you know you were pregnant? And I was like, yeah, I knew. I took a pregnancy test like months ago. I told him I didn't feel like I needed to go to the doctor. And he was like, no, you should come as soon as you find out you're pregnant or whatever. He's like, you waited really long. And it's like, I'm worried about you because you waited so long. And I was like, I'm fine. And he, measured my uterus and he pulled out the Doppler. We heard the heartbeat. When we went to when he measured me, he's like, oh yes, your uterus is measuring to be 17 weeks, which is like, that's accurate considering when you said your last period was. And then we listened to the heartbeat. And when he before he was put the thing on my belly to hear the heartbeat, he was like, sometimes it takes a while to hear the heartbeat, so we're just going to give it a minute. The moment he pressed that thing to my uterus, immediately, boom, 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 heartbeat. And it was very strong. And he was like, oh, it's a very strong heartbeat. The baby's definitely alive in there. The baby sounds good. So we listened for a while. That was really sweet and special. I liked that. But then he told me that I needed to go get this blood work done, do a pee test. My town only has a small clinic. We don't have a hospital. So to get to the hospital, I would have to take a boat, like a ferry, a small ferry, across the water to this other part of Costa Rica where there's an actual hospital. And the only time they take blood work is before 9 a.m. So in order to do it, I would have to take like a 6:30 a.m. ferry. And at the time I was living here on my farm, which is about a 20-minute drive from where the ferry picks you up. And so I was like, that's going to kind of be a lot for me. Like, I had a lot going on at the time. I was cleaning out the house and preparing to move. So I never did it. Also, I did all of this like a week before going to the States. So I only had a week of time before traveling in order to do that. And I was like, I'm too busy. I'm like moving right now. And he also tried to give me 2 more appointments with the doctor also the following week. But like I said, I was moving and I really didn't want to go because the biggest red flag for me was they told me that I was going to need to be vaccinated. I needed 2 vaccines as a pregnant woman. And I was like, really? I don't think you should vaccinate me, especially while I'm pregnant. And I was like, I don't want any vaccines. And he was just like, oh, you have to get a vaccine. It's required in Costa Rica. It's required. Legally. He said legally it's required. And I'm thinking legally, I had looked into it before and I thought we had the legal right to say no. But he was like, legally it's required. I had a friend, a German friend, who is pregnant at the same time as me, but she's further along. And she had been going here to the same doctor for her prenatals. So I kind of asked her about her experience. And the thing was, the vaccines weren't required until you hit 20 weeks. So I was 17 weeks, so I was safe. So I was like, ooh. y'all not finna see me again. So I left, haven't been back. They called me one time when I missed my appointment the following week. I didn't answer. They have not contacted me again. But I asked my German friends because, she's in my position. She's on a tourist visa here, also more into like holistic stuff. So I asked her and she had been going to this doctor. I'm like, what was your experience? And she said that they were pushing her to get the vaccine and she just kept saying no. And she also has a 2-year-old daughter. But then one day, people showed up at her house, which I've heard about them doing this in Costa Rica. Like, if your kid doesn't go to school, they'll show up at your house. Or if your kids don't get vaccinated, they'll show up at your house to basically say, hey, you have to do this. So they basically went to her and were like, you have to get these vaccines. And they even threatened that they would take custody of her 2-year-old and potentially be able to get custody of her unborn child. She's pregnant and vulnerable. So she just got the vaccines because of what they said to her. So her story had me like, yikes. I had another friend who has a baby here who's from the UK, and I asked her about her experience, and she said she avoided them by like switching doctors. Like she was going in the town and they did the same thing, and then she went to another doctor, and I don't remember if she ever had to get them, but she just kind of like was ducking them. So I'm already like, this is getting to be too much because I have the right to say no. All right, y'all, I do not have my wireless microphone and the rain got a bit harder, so I had to switch. At this point, I saw that through the women who I knew, they either had to surrender to the system or they had to kind of find a way to evade or duck off from them. So I was starting to get nervous. I honestly heavily considered going back to the States to give birth simply because there we have more rights, it appears. And I definitely am very much aware. I've also been listening to the Free Birth Society podcast, which I highly recommend to anybody, but especially to women who are pregnant and who have children, hearing about unassisted births at home and different things through all sorts of circumstances, having successful births at home. So that podcast also really empowered me to know that the truth is, even though like people will try to coerce you into believing that you have to do things a certain way, that you have to follow the system, that's just not the truth. Even the way they have an exact way that it is for every single pregnant woman, when every single pregnant woman is not the same, that tells me right there that they don't leave space for the different circumstances. And also that just the fact that this is not even a very old system. We've been birthing like this in hospitals for maybe 100 years, maybe less. However, there were eons of time. I don't know how long an eon is. A lot more than 100 years of time was spent birthing at home. The other thing about Costa Rica, and I have another friend who just recently had a baby here who's from Canada, and she was telling me her birth story, and she was like, she ultimately had to go to the hospital, which she didn't really want to do, but she was just going through it. She had to go, which is totally fine. But they made her do a C-section, which she really didn't want because she had already had a C-section, and she knew this was her last pregnancy, and she really wanted to do a vaginal birth, but they really pushed her. She also didn't want her baby to be vaccinated, and she expressed that, but they were like, you have to get the baby vaccinated. And the day the baby was born, she was vaccinated. So even in her experience, she's like, it's really not what I wanted, but she was like, there was nothing I could do. So hearing these stories here versus women in the States who are like, I just gave birth at my house or at a birthing center, and having the right to say no to certain things and not having their baby get poked with a needle on the first day out of the womb. And I'm like, if you are down for vaccinating children or babies, that's fine. That's your business. That's your baby. But vaccinating them the first day that they leave the womb is crazy to me. What's even in that? And this baby's system is used to being in the womb, and now you're automatically putting all this nonsense in their system. It just makes no sense to me. So yeah, I was really against it, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely not going to a hospital to birth this baby. I don't care what happens. If an emergency happens at the house, we're going to deal with it at the house. I don't care. I'm dealing with it at the house. I'm taking full responsibility. So that's where I've been at with it. But now we come back to, I'm like, okay, well, I need some proof of prenatal care. So I'm thinking about doing what my friend did. I'm thinking about, okay, maybe I'll just go to another doctor in a different place and see if they'll let me say no to the vaccine. And if they try to push it, then I'll just have to go to another doctor, because I'm getting different information too. Like, some people were telling me I just needed 3 visits, but then some people were telling me I needed 5 visits. I don't know what they do if you don't have this many visits, obviously. I didn't want to put myself in jeopardy of them threatening me in any way when it came time to register the birth of my child. So I started to look into potentially getting a midwife. I spoke to a doula who's also from the States but is living in Costa Rica. I spoke to her on the phone, did a free consultation. And I just wanted to hear more from someone who's experienced births in Costa Rica about the legalities. Because also home birth is not completely just legal, freely legal here in Costa Rica. Obviously, if it's an accidental birth, it's an accidental birth. But they still want you to see a doctor within 24 hours. And otherwise, you're required to have a medic or doctor present at your home birth if you're planning it. And so this doula who I spoke to kind of told me those things. She also told me that, you know, if you want to do it completely wild and natural, you can, but since it's your first pregnancy and you don't live near a hospital, she recommended that I have a midwife, to have somebody who can identify an emergency in time for me to be transported potentially to a hospital if that is needed. So I'm like, okay, I'll consider it. And the way she said it, it made sense, you know. I was like, you know, I guess I could have somebody there. Because so far, my only plan was to have my best friend, Courtney, there. I say best friend. I have a lot of best friends, but she's one of my best friends. She has 3 kids. She gave birth to 2 at home. And her most recent birth was completely just, well, not fully unassisted because she had her husband there, but like her husband was her only assistant. She just did it at home. And her first birth, that was a home birth, she did have a midwife present. I was just planning to have her be my birthing assistant because it's something she's interested in. I know she's done it before. I'm comfortable with her. Her energy is very chill. So I'm like, yeah, you can be there for my birth. You know, if anybody's going to be there, this is the person who I feel in my heart I want to be there. But then, so this doula sent me some midwives, and I looked through their contacts, found one whose the energy coming from her photo was really good. I spoke to her the other day, and her energy is beautiful. Beautiful woman, beautiful vibes. She already has a doula and a medic who work with her, so her doula was with her on the call. And they really had good energy. But even that, with that, they asked me about what I'd done so far, and I told them I only went to the doctor once. And I hadn't done anything else. I was like, I haven't done any blood work. I haven't done anything. And they're like, they can't even take me on unless I have certain prenatal care already on record. They told me I needed to see the doctor at least 5 times before giving birth. And they weren't putting any pressure on me, for sure. They were really kind. But even then, I didn't feel comfortable explaining to them how I was trying to avoid the vaccines for myself and my baby. Because they even say, like, they have a doctor come and see the baby after they're born and all these things. And it's like, they were not a bad option at all. They were not a bad option at all. Beautiful energy. But again, my spirit is just like, I don't even want all this. I'm considering doing this to appease the system. I'm considering this option to avoid conflict with the system. And I found that, and I know this to be true because I've been reading so much about free birthing and listening to all these stories, and I'm like, I'm not really about to do birth the way I want to because I'm letting everyone else dictate what I should do. So even now, I'm like, honestly, I don't want to get this midwife, even though her energy is great. And the other thing was, I really want to birth here in my town. This midwife does travel, but my baby is due December 27th, very close to Christmas time. So she and her team are not able to travel during this time. So I would have to also relocate, go to San Jose, Costa Rica, to be somewhere close by so that they can come and tend to the birth. And even that, I'm like, I just got back from the States. I'm 6 months pregnant. I just moved from my farm and started renting a house so that I can build a house here on the farm. And my goal was to build this house here in time to birth here. Or if not, I could potentially birth at the place I'm renting or birth somewhere. I don't know. I don't know where, but I just know I don't really want to do this big travel. That's like the whole point for me of the home birth, is not to do some big trip, to relocate myself, to have to re-nest right before I go through the most life-changing experience of my life. And I know another woman who just recently birthed here, who I know is supernatural, super like out the system, escape the matrix type of person. And I asked her what her experience was. I was like, were you able to avoid the doctors and still get a birth certificate? And she basically said, girl, if you want to get a birth certificate in Costa Rica, they're going to push vaccines on you. They're going to push them on your baby. You're not going to be free. If you don't mind doing that, you can do it. But if you don't want to do those things, you should not even get the Costa Rican birth certificate. Just get them their U.S. passport, apply for a U.S. birth certificate. That's got me really deeply present, thinking, yeah, you might be right. Because I was down to get the birth certificate to get residency for me, because that allows certain privileges and things, but I don't really care that much, and I'm not really willing to give up my rights to have this piece of paper. I'm also not willing, because I know some people who they'll fake the vaccine documents. I'm not even willing to do that at this point, y'all. I'm in a place of impeccable honesty. And I genuinely don't feel like doing all these things to kind of trick the system so that I can participate in it. I'm even the type where, people, Costa Rican people, friends of mine, are asking me stuff about the pregnancy, about, have you done an ultrasound? Have you been to the doctor? Have you been taking your vitamins? I'm not doing none of that. And I don't want to lie. I don't want to tell them I have been doing it when I haven't. That just doesn't feel right to me. And at the same time, I can see that so many people here are so in the belief of you should be doing your checkups, because they think it for a good reason. They're like, they're going to make sure that you're okay and that your baby's okay. So you need to be going and doing your checkups. You need to be getting your vaccines. And it's coming from a good place, but I'm just I just don't believe it like that. So I don't even want to talk to nobody about it, because they got too many questions. I wanted to share this, especially because I know some of the people who follow me potentially live in Costa Rica or are thinking about living in Costa Rica and perhaps want to give birth here at some point. If you are comfortable with the vaccines and all these things, the prenatal care is free. You can come here, you can give birth, you can get a Costa Rican citizenship for your baby and then apply for residency for yourself. You can do all those things if this is not an issue for you, but for me, it's an issue. And it's not just while they're a baby that they vaccinate them the day that they're born. There's also required vaccines for children in Costa Rica in order to go to school and different things. And even if they don't go to school, they're still requiring all these things. However, in the United States, it's only required if you go to a public or private school. But if you're homeschooling, there's no requirements to vaccinate your children. And I know everybody has different feelings about vaccines. I'm not even somebody who feels so strongly about it that I'm like, if you take a vaccine, you're going to be messed up for life. If y'all want to take them, take them. But I just don't want to. And I also want to offer my child the opportunity to live a life that is completely free of those things. I really do. And it feels right. It just feels right for me. That just is what feels right for me. But I have close friends who vaccinate their children, and I love their children. Their children are perfectly fine. So it's not even that I'm afraid of it. It's that I genuinely just feel like, no. My answer is no. And I feel like I should have enough sovereignty to say no. And then my child gets old enough to understand what it is, and if they say they want it, we're gonna pull up and get it. If that's what you want to do to your body. I was vaccinated as a child. I'm fine. But if I had more information, maybe I wouldn't have wanted to be. Or maybe I would have. But with what I know right now, I'm not comfortable getting vaccines. I don't need it. I never got the COVID vaccine. So many people in my family were so up in arms about this. All of them got COVID. I never had it. Haven't been sick. Haven't been sick in years. It was just not necessary. It was just, to me, not necessary. And the people in my family who got the vaccine still got COVID after being vaccinated. So I'm like truly. And, there's definitely people in my family that they think I'm crazy for this. And it's just whatever, think what you want. I don't think you're crazy for getting it. I see clearly that you've done your research. and you have chosen to take this because it feels like the right decision for you and your body, and you are not crazy. It's absolutely valid and okay for you to get those vaccines if that's what you want to do. But give me the sovereignty, the autonomy to make my own decisions, especially now while I'm pregnant. Y'all, ooh, it's the level of control. And the thing that it's really not sitting right with me is just everyone wants a piece of you when you're pregnant. It's like they want to weigh you. They want data and information, and you just become data to them. They don't really care. You're just data. Hospitals just want to make sure that the baby survives because that's data too. They want to say that this many percentage of babies survived births in this hospital. They don't want to have to say babies died in birth. And as sad as it is, some babies do die or mothers die in childbirth. Some people have stillbirths. This is a reality. Even healthy mothers have had stillbirths. It's a reality that we must face without always looking for someone to blame. So, yeah, I'm just in this place of, wow, I don't want to do anything. Even I told my mom, and my mom too, like my mom she's doing great. She's so open to me doing a home birth and doing things more natural. She's trying to give me as much, leash as she can as far as like letting me decide. But then she still has her way of kind of like, even her own form of coercion of, okay, but I think this is the most important thing. You need to have somebody there. You can't just do it by yourself. You need to have somebody there, or you need to be near a hospital. And she really wants me to go get this blood work done. And I'm considering doing it. My plan was to go tomorrow, but even now I'm sitting with it and I'm like, for what? So I can give them this paper so I can prove to them that I'm healthy enough to carry this child that I know I'm healthy enough to carry because the baby's in there moving around, in there wiggling, living their best life. Because I know, because of how I feel, that I'm good. But I need to go and I need to prove it. And I need to prove that I put myself in someone else's hands in order to prove that I'm a fit mother. It's just something about it, y'all. It's just something about it. So this is all I'm going to share about it for now. My personal experience. Costa Rica is not as free as you may think. Honestly, now that I'm looking more into the laws and things, the United States, we have so much privilege. We have rights. Sometimes you have to know them so that you can, stand on them. But we have definitely more rights there than we do here. So I think I may prefer for my child to just be a U.S. citizen and not get this Costa Rican citizenship, just so that I can avoid having to bend over to their laws. The thing with laws is laws be changing. They could deem all this shit dangerous 12 years from now and suddenly not be doing it anymore. And it's like everybody who got them while they were out, it's like, sorry, y'all. Now we have more research and we find that they're actually not safe. So I'm avoiding it at all costs. And this is where I'm at. I'm already 24 weeks pregnant. I haven't had any ultrasound. I took prenatals for about 1 week. And I was like, I don't really need this. I'm fine. Seen a doctor one time. Don't know the gender of my baby. And we good. You see I'm big. You see I'm growing. I mean, we good over here.
Hope you find some